Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of the Airgun World podcast, brought to you in association with Crackshot, the Southwest Premier Airgun Centre and Ranges. You join me, Dave Barham, today with my co-host Terry Doe, and we've got a rather special studio guest for you today. It's Matthew Gleaves. Hey, check us out. We're into episode 4, and we've got a British champion on the show. Check it out. Now, Matthew is he's the current British Benchrest Champion. So we're going to be having a chat with you, Matt. How are you anyway?
I'm grand, thanks. Pleased to be here.
Sorry to drag you out of your man cave. I know you practically live in there, don't you? You practice 26 hours a day.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's your rise to the top and your success has been nothing short of phenomenal, really. I've been following you for a while now, and man, you just wipe the board with most people, don't you? And is that it's got to be down to practice, because you do spend a lot of time practicing, don't you?
I'll be honest with you, it's a time in my life where, like, my daughter's left home and things, and I've got the time to do it. I never had it before. And yeah, probably about 15 hours a week trigger time.
Wow.
When it's warm enough.
You got a heater in there as well for the cold weather. Excellent stuff. Well, it's quite topical that we've got you on the show. The current issue, the February issue of Airgun World. I've actually written a 4-page feature in there about the Airability Live event that Matt hosts every year. And it was just an amazing experience for me. It was my first airgun competition for the best part of 30 years. I was told I was going to be entering the rookie class, and I turned up in the morning, and Matt's gone, "Nope, you're shooting the pro class today. It's a ranking event." And I'm like, right, okay, I've never shot Benchrest before. I'll get into this as we go on through the podcast, but it's quite involved and a lot different to anything else I'd ever done before. For instance, the guns that you use. I'm going to ask you a question in a minute, Matt. And I've got a prop with me here as well to talk about. But the gun I was using didn't have a stock on it. It was like a solid piece of aluminium with a scope on top. And you sit directly behind it. And it was just all completely alien to me. It really was strange. So the first question I'm going to ask you, we'll get straight into it, is choosing a rifle for Benchrest. Now, it just so happens that I've got this month's test rifle with me, which is a Zabroya Hortitsia from the Ukraine. It's actually a really nice bit of kit. And I was the first thing I looked at when it turned up is it's got a flat forend on the stock. Now, I know that is one of the requirements for a rifle. It's a bolt action 5-shot magazine, but it's got like a biathlon bolt, so you cock it, push it back with your thumb. Other than that, would that be legal for UK Benchrest?
Answer is yes and no. So, right. So can I have a look at the butt, please? And then I can tell you.
It's a normal. It's a normal. These are all.
It's a straight right. Yeah. So there we go. Yes, it would be essentially legal. So the front end, it can't be over 3 inches wide.
Right.
And it has to be completely flat on the underside and has to make 100% contact with the rest. So you can't have an accessory rail that hasn't got anything in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the butt itself has to be straight or concave. It can't be convex.
Right.
Because if it's convex, it hugs over the back bag and stops the gun having any movement, which is a bit of a cheat. It's kind of wedging the gun in there. But there are a few things that we as Benchresters prefer, but are not essential. So we prefer a single shot action because we find magazines can just very slightly, trim the pellets and things. And when you get to the silly amount of accuracy that we're trying to get, it can make a difference. And we do like a floating barrel if we can get one as well.
Yeah, no, I just found it quite interesting because, like I say, it was a Lobo that I was shooting. Jason Lockett.
Jason's.
Yeah, Jason. If you're watching this, I know you probably will be. Just thank you very much for that day, mate. Because I borrowed all his kit. He gave me like 5 minutes of tuition. That was it. I sat on the range, 5 minutes of tuition. I wasn't allowed to take a shot before the comp started, and it was like, wow, this is just mad. I'll explain a little bit now, shall I, about what the front rest does. You basically have a little lever that comes off of the front rest, so your rifle's mounted on a flat plate, and you have a tiny little lever, and that basically moves your rifle up, down, left, right. So you're sitting there on a drum stool directly behind the rifle with this lever, and you're using that to move the rifle. And bearing in mind that you're shooting over 20 metres, aren't we?
25.
25 metres, sorry. Bearing in mind that the targets are tiny and the bullseye that you're aiming for is 2 millimetres, the tiniest little movement of this joystick and the rifle goes through the scope. It took me forever to get that nailed, should I say. But I did all right, didn't I? I shot a 242 on my first ever round, which I was very, very impressed with.
You definitely couldn't complain about that. And we did try to look after you on the day.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and I was actually sat next to you because I thought I'll look after him, I'll sit next to him. But as you noticed, I do concentrate a bit, and to be honest, after the first 10 seconds, I completely forgot you were there. But, you went on and you improved throughout the day, didn't you, as well?
I did, yeah. I shot a 243 the next round, and then a 244 the last round. This is out of 250, by the way, everybody. I was enjoying it that much and getting into it that much. I just wanted to keep shooting after I'd shot my 3 rounds. But I knew on that last round, and I'm sure everyone that shoots Benchrest, people that don't shoot Benchrest, Terry will understand this one. I went to take a shot, and as soon as I touched the trigger, I knew that I shouldn't have touched the trigger. The wind had slightly changed. It was just I shouldn't have taken that shot, and that cost me 2 points, effectively. But Terry, do you want to have any input in this? Have you ever shot Benchrest?
Yeah, I've got a Benchrest background. I've got a story. I spent virtually a year of my life when they brought out a sport called BR50 and BR25, and the 25 and 50 were yards, and that's Benchrest, and they were outdoors. And there were all sorts of weight penalties on your guns. The lighter your gun was, the better score you could get with it, or the heavier you were penalised. But I wasn't worried about competing with anybody. I wanted to hit a possible. I wanted to hit 25 pips outdoors at 25 yards. So I thought that will not be a problem. I'm going to just slaughter this. I've got access to all the best pellets. I had people preparing my pellets at H&N. That were preparing the Olympic pellets individually with an eyeglass, putting them on shadowgraphs, infinite weighing, everything. And it took me a year to do that.
Wow.
I scored like one shot off. I almost had a row with the guy who scored it once because I reckoned it, because it's, what is it, Matt? Inward or outward scoring, where if you're slightly out, you lose it. So you have to take that pip, And
if you touch
it drove me raving mad. Absolutely bonkers. Yeah, if you touch the outer ring, that's what you get. It doesn't matter if you've only just touched it. You get the lower score. And how obsessed I was in those days. Matt's on about the amount of training he did. I did 1,000 to 1,500 shots a week, every week, no matter what the weather, anything.
Wow.
In the end, I ended up asking the NSRA if I could use their indoor ranges so I could do away with wind, establish the right pellets, and then go outdoors and do it. Well, I'll tell you now, it'll take something to get a totally draft-free indoor range, because their indoor ranges, they're either 10 metres for air rifle, which the wind's not going to have a great deal because they're shuttered in, or they're using rimfire. So they're not going to be kicked around like a 177 pellet was. I even had incense sticks set up on wooden blocks out to the target every 5 yards to see the smoke rising off the incense sticks to see what was going on. And it was going left and right at the same time. Drove me absolutely mad. And once I'd done it once, though, I did it 4 times in a month. But it took me a year. I'm not ashamed to say it, because the pursuit of absolute perfection consumed a year of my life, virtually. And that's why I admire these guys who, they have no room for error, mechanically, judgmental, anything. I totally admire them. And to hit a possible, as a few boys at Bisley have done, to hit a possible, that's some feat, that. And you don't have to win a trophy for that. You can do that on your own.
The rules you were talking about there, Matt, I believe that you still score a 10 if you clip the bullseye, but it has to be completely obliterated by the pellet to score an X. Is that correct?
Yes, so we also use, most of us shoot 177, but we use a 2-2 plug to mark it, which makes the hole essentially as if you were shooting a 2-2 bullet or pellet.
Right.
So when you've shot your target, sometimes you can think, that's a 9, but when you get the gauge in, you know, it gives you a pleasant surprise.
Excellent. Well, while we're on the subject of pellets, I think it's probably a natural progression for both of you chaps to talk about, having both shot competitions for most of your lives. What sort of pellet prep do you do, Matt, for these competitions? I know you're shooting single shot, hand loading single shots. What is your pellet prep routine?
So I think some of it's based on paranoia, and some of it's based on, you know, data and things I've learned. So for a competition, I weigh every single pellet. I put every single pellet through a sizer. I give every single pellet a visual inspection. And then before I put them in the gun on the day, and I'm the only person who does this, I give them a little roll on a little foam with a little lubrication, so they're freshly lubed in the barrel.
What about you, Terry? In your competition days, what sort of stuff were you doing?
I totally agree with what Matt's just said. I completely agree with what Matt's just said. Some of it is psychological, without a doubt. But once you're hooked on it, to shoot without knowing that you'd hand prepared every pellet, it's put you points down to start with, for a start. And conversely, if you look at, in my game at Field Target, if I'm looking at the guy next to me and he's taken him out of he's just undone a tin on the range that morning, I'm thinking to myself, you know, I hope I get you in the shoot off, because I know my pellets are spot on. I used to wash them, put them in a sieve and sloosh them around under the tap, get all the swarf off, put them in a jar, give them a good scoosh around, check the bottom of the jar, make sure there's no more swarf, back in the sieve, rinse them off, dry them with a hairdryer on some kitchen towel so they were hot, not just dry, but hot. Transfer them to another towel that's got a load of my pellet lube on it. Okay, I'd never squirt the pellet lube directly on the pellets, because you're going to fill the back ends up and you don't want that. So you've got an impregnated towel, hot pellets, roll them on, and you roll them up and down in like a little hammock thing, so that they're getting gently coated on the outside only the surfaces that contact the towel. So they get contacted, spread them out, let them dry, visually inspect them, and they go in the tin. The two things I didn't do was to weigh and size. The reason I didn't weigh them is that my pellets had already been done. I blagged mine, and I pulled out every stock I could. Don't tell me, you know, I was being offered. To do it. Well, I got the ammunition, the pellet guys to do it. If you're being offered that, you're not going to say, "Oh no," in the interest of fairness, I'm not going to have that advantage. No, I'll have it. And I use those. I've still got about 5 tins. And when I'm developing guns or helping field test guns, and I want the absolute out of them, I bring these precious tins out that I hope will see me out. I bring them out and I use them. But that was with 3 different pellets. That was with Crossman Premier, to a lesser degree Bisley Magnum, because that was I did very well with those, knocking down targets with them. But then the JSBs came out, brilliant. But the very first one were H&N FT trophies. And I did extremely well with those. And they were the same as everybody else's pellets, except they'd gone through they'd gone through prep before they were packaged and sent to me. And I'll take every advantage I can. But a lot of it's in your head. Well, the great thing is if you spend like an entire night doing 200 pellets and then kick them over on the range, that's a good thing to do. You do that. See how you go. So then you've got to do 4 on. You've got to have a spare tin and rotate them.
Terry's just mentioned H&N pellets, and I gather you are on the H&N bandwagon yourself, aren't you? What are you using at the moment?
Absolutely. I must admit they couldn't treat me any better if they tried. So, beginning of the season, I get a crate of pellets sent over. I'm using the Barracuda FTs. Why I said I wear them due to paranoia, there's no reason to wear them, but I wear them anyway because that one shot a season could cost you a trophy.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about those pellets is I must have batches over about 5 years, and I would confidently just pick any tin up and go to the range with it to do a competition if I'm prepared.
For everyone listening and watching, let's get back into actually shooting an event. So you turn up, you have people on the range, marshals, they say, get your guns out. Before you do that, you have to walk down range and set your flags out, don't you? Terry was talking about incense sticks. Well, things have moved on ever so slightly now, and you're actually using homemade flags, which are, you can...
I had those. Excuse me. I had those. They weren't sensitive enough.
No, I was just about to say they are extremely sensitive. You can have a gnat blow on them and it'll swing around. It's so you put your flags out, rifles on the range. You have a little plastic thing that sticks in the breech, don't you, as a safety measure?
Safety flag.
Yeah, and then the range marshal says, safety flags out. You can load your rifles, and then he'll say, right, you can shoot. Then the shooter, me, you've got a stop clock in front of you. 20 minutes you're allowed. Get the stop clock, and you've got a row of 5 targets by 5, so it's 25 shots, scoring shots, and then down each side, those are red, aren't they?
No, blue.
No, they're blue. Down the sides, you've got 5 either side, red targets. Now you can shoot those test targets as many times as you like throughout that 20 minutes, but you're obviously only allowed 1 shot on the scoring blue targets, and that is, I found that an absolute godsend, because it's essential, isn't it, to shoot those test targets when those flags start to spin round to a different direction. What I got from that competition, having never shot that Benchrest before, I pulled 2 things away from that. The first one was that the wind is absolutely everything. It's all about the wind. The tiniest breeze to the heaviest gale. You need to work out a pattern of what that wind's doing on that outdoor range. I mean, we're enclosed on the left-hand side with loads of trees and stuff, enclosed on the back, slightly open to the right, and that wind did move about all day. So you need to gauge which way the flags are going, take a few test shots, and then when those flags are in those same positions, you know that you're bob on for a good shot. Then it might all change. The thing that really sort of stuck in my mind was just how little a breeze can move a pellet. I mean, I've been a hunter all my life, and I've had a few shots when I'm rabbit shooting, especially. I've got the wind blowing in my face, as a rabbit hunter would do, so the scent doesn't go down the field. I sit there, everything's perfect. It's blowing a bit. Take a shot, and rabbit goes, "What was that?" It's gone straight over the top of its head. That happened to me on the range. The wind was blowing towards me, and it's lifted the pellet. I mean, I still scored like a 7 or something. But, if you're shooting over 35, maybe 40 yards, pushing it a bit, that pellet is going to move that much with a decent headwind. And it's the same left to right. I never really understood just how much that breeze can move a pellet. But yeah, it is. It's all about the wind, isn't it?
So those wind flags you were talking about, we have model radio-controlled car bearings in them,
right,
to make them spin. That's how, it isn't just thrown together. And each of the ribbons on the wind flags has a different density.
Right.
So I have a mixture of heavy ribbons, and then I even cut up those Mylar marathon blankets that people put on them.
Yeah.
I cut them into strips because they float when you've got the slightest wind. But when it comes to wind, the biggest thing you need to learn is when not to pull the trigger.
Yeah. Like I say, I absolutely knew that I'd pulled the trigger at the wrong time. I should have waited, because you do, like I say, you get 20 minutes. 20 minutes to rattle off 25 shots is actually quite a long time, isn't it?
That's still going in your head, that clock.
Yeah, even though it's straight in front of you. Okay, so let's briefly touch on airability, Matt. I mean, it's people watching this will not, unless they know you, realise that you are in a chair, aren't you, mate?
Absolutely. And, airability came out of basically COVID, because I did a bucket load of shooting in my garden because I was bored. And people started to notice I was in a wheelchair and asked me questions about how did I manage. And that's how it came about. And so really we've got a Facebook group and a YouTube channel where I just talk rubbish from my shed. And it's just about trying to get people out shooting more the Benchrest shooting, because it's easier to get people with different, physical limitations into it. And we've had a couple of annual events and we've been picking people for the tour. And by the time this goes out, it'll probably be our 3rd birthday. But it's something I dearly love, and it's like having a circle of 1,500 friends.
Yeah, no, it's just growing and growing and growing, isn't it? When we've done stuff in the mag for you, and incidentally, I've just put the March issue to bed. That this Sabroya rifle's on the cover. In the April issue, yourself and Graham Freeman, another champion. You've started a little series for us, haven't you, on Benchrest, basically touching on the issues we've been talking about on today's podcast, but in a lot more detail. So yeah, from the April issue, there'll be a series in there from Matt and Graham Freeman. If you want to subscribe, by the way, I'll get a shameless plug-in. If you want to subscribe and get this February issue and read my feature about my experience of my day at the Airability event, there is a link down in the description here of the video, which is a 15% off offer just for people who are watching or listening to the podcast. So, or you can head on over to airgunshooting.co.uk website and just check it out there. Grab yourself a subscription and get yourself some BASA insurance thrown in as well. Are you insured, Matt?
Through Airgun World magazine.
Excellent. Well, that worked well, didn't it?
Well, to be honest, it was flat out the cheapest option.
Yeah, it's a good deal, isn't it? It is a good deal. Get the magazine and then get your insurance tapped on as well.
What Matt does is, in my opinion, as somebody who wants the whole world to get involved in airgun shooting, I think it's possibly, and it's a desperately fashionable word I'm trying to avoid, but it's possibly the most inclusive form of our sport there is out there.
Yeah.
I think you've got juniors, you've got the ladies category, you've got people with various physical challenges and stuff. And I don't think there's a shooting sport out there, and forgive me if I'm wrong, and I'd love to hear of a better one, because that's good for all of us. But I don't think there's a shooting sport out there that offers the chance to win the top prizes and really do well in than Benchrest shooting. It's for me, it's the most accessible, and so is winning. And winning for it's all about taking part. Winning's great. Winning's one. I love winning, and I love taking part. But what Matt does and what he's promoting is massive. It is. It's huge for us, and it's a route in, and they can stay there and play with that, or they can go out and do something else and that. But as a means of taking part, enjoying, practicing at home, developing your techniques, in the privacy and of your own little range, you can build the whole system's there in Benchrest shooting. It's a fantastic sport, and if you're even thinking about doing it, find out about it. Hassle Matt, he's the guru, and get involved in it. I can't recommend it enough. I really can't.
I'm really looking forward to coming to another event and shooting again. Like I say, I left that day. I just wanted to shoot more and more and more. I bought 50 cards off of Graham, and I shoot them in my back garden. So they're great for testing new rifles on, because that really shows them up. Yeah, it's just, I can't wait to have another go. It's just brilliant. The whole atmosphere was fantastic. I shot my first round. We all got ushered out of the range for the next group to come in. Put the gun away, walked round the back. People just coming up to me, chatting, just talking just general stuff and about the comp. You know, it was just such a great. There's kids running around playing football in the car park and everything. It was great. This is like a real family day out. And, you know, I really enjoyed it. I just really enjoyed the whole experience. It was brilliant. And it's so accessible. Anyone can do it, can't they?
Can I ask you one question, Dave?
Yeah.
When you got in your car at the end of the day and you're driving home, were you thinking, if I did, but I could have, next time I will, and all those things are going through your head? And that's the magic about the sport for me, because you're always dreaming about the next opportunity to shoot them tens, you know.
Absolutely, it was. Right then, okay. So, is there anything else you want to talk about, Matt, with regards to Benchrest?
Well, I just think, like you said, it's possibly the most inclusive sport. Where else have you seen a sport that's for able-bodied, that people in wheelchairs are winning events at? You know what I mean? That's really rare. What I would say is, what a canny bunch. You've met them. You know, there is the the want to win mentality when you cross the line and you're on the range. But when you come off, you know, like you said, people are just sitting around having a laugh, because you can't keep that level of seriousness up all day, or your heart would split, wouldn't it?
Yeah, not with Jason about, anyway.
Well, I've actually been told if I don't mention Jason, he's going to come and get me. He told me. So, bless him.
Excellent stuff. Okay, mate. Well, if you're going to hang around for a little while with us, we've got a load of questions and stuff here from listeners. Before we dive into the Q&A section, anyone listening, watching, just a reminder to sign up to our Airgun World newsletter. Gets sent out every month, and it's full of tips and tricks. It's got the latest videos that Matt's shooting on YouTube, loads of features, links to features, that sort of stuff. Again, we'll put a link down in the description to sign up to the newsletter. But if you don't want to sign up through that link, just head on to airgunshooting.co.uk, scroll all the way to the bottom, and you can sign up for the newsletter there. You can also sign up for shooting times, rifle shoot, various other field sports publications. I've got a good one here from Ian Hunter. He actually only emailed me this a couple of days ago, so it's quite topical. It says, "Hi guys, do you ever clean your barrels? If so, how often do you do it? I've only been shooting for a year, and I was just wondering if I should be cleaning my rifle's barrel regularly." My answer is, I've very, very rarely cleaned my barrels, but I want to hear what you two competition guys are saying. I'm a hunter. I only ever clean a barrel if pellets start going astray, and I can't work out why. What about you, Terry? What do you do?
Right, funny enough, one of my questions is more or less that. It's a chap called Henry said, how long does it take to lead in a barrel from new and after cleaning, and how often would you do it? So we'll answer both questions. Right, as far as competition use goes, well, first of all, as far as hunting use goes, same as you. Unless the barrel gets filled up with rain, or I can definitely notice there's something wrong, it gets left alone. My experience of competition and of manufacturing, going around the various airgun manufacturers and seeing the components, including the barrels made, I can tell you right here, right now, there are no two barrels exactly the same. I don't care if they come from the same manufacturer, on the same rifle, for the same company. As soon as that cutting tool goes through, it changes, and it goes through 50 barrels. The first barrel and the 50th barrel are different. The question is, does it make a difference? But before you even answer that on the barrel front, remember, the same applies to the pellets. They're being made either extruded or moulded or stamped out of a ball. Everything that's given work to do, every tool that's given work to do is affected by the work eventually. So you've got two variables. You've got the barrel variable and you've got the pellet variable. And what you have to do is, first of all, cut down on those variables as much as you can. So you do that by buying a good barrel. Most air guns have good barrels these days. But the second way you can do it is buying your pellets in batches. You buy as many, once you've found the right one, buy an awful lot of them, or from the same batch. Then it's only you, not the guy who's got the same gun as you on the next bench, not your best mate, not the guy who uses the same pellets and gun and everything. You have to monitor that gun. You have to monitor that rifle and its results. If they start to go, then gently, very gently, clean the barrel, see what difference it makes. You may take 50 shots to get it leaded in, as they say. There are anomalies in the barrel, and maybe they do need to, we don't know this, I don't know it for a fact, maybe they do need to fill in with lead that's come off the pellets. I don't put them in dirty, I keep them clean before they go in. I'm not introducing swarf and muck and dust, so that's another variable I'm cutting out. But the real answer to that question, how long does it take? It takes as long as your rifle and your pellets take to show premium results, optimum results. That's how long it takes. Can be 10 pellets, can be 100. Matt will know it on a more of a macro level, but that's the broad principle of the whole thing. Over to Matt for the science of it all.
For the boring bit. So I split it into three kind of phases. So whenever you get a brand new rifle, you've got to scrub that barrel until it's absolutely spick and span, so you know what you're dealing with. Because many rifles are actually packaged with like transport and grease and things like that in the rifle, and you don't know how long they've sat. So if I ever get a new barrel or rifle, pull it through till those pull-throughs are absolutely as good as when they came out the box. And then I run my rifle, and before I put my rifle away, I always put a couple of cleaning pellets down it, just to kind of like a maintenance clean, just before it goes back in the box. But there is a set period of time before a tournament, and it's more the number of pellets I intend on shooting rather than the physical time. And I do a deep clean before a tournament, so it's reaching its peak leaded in point for the tournament. And Terry hit the nail on it about leading in. There's a lot of myths, and do you need to fill the holes in the barrel? What are these holes and things like that? But every barrel's absolutely different. I've got one gun, I don't have to lead in. I put 2 pellets down. It's the same as when I've leaded it in. It just runs perfectly. Then I've got another barrel needs about 30, 35 pellets before it starts to really, shoot well. So it's about learning what you've got and the maintenance regime you need for a particular gun.
Cool. While we're on the subject of cleaning, I'll just, for any sort of new shooters out there, when we're talking about a pull-through kit, you need to buy a pull-through kit. It's like little fibre strips that are attached to a string that you pull through. Don't get, like one of my friends did, one of those 22 or 177 wire rod jobbies for cleaning out rim fires, because they're not good for your barrel. Just get a cloth fibre pull-through kit. Okay, this is quite a funny one actually, and we'll all relate to this. Hi Dave, I went to the range in Bramfield a couple of weeks ago around 11 a.m. and I was the only one there, although there were shotguns going off all around me. I have some fingerless gloves, but after a polar bear looking for a fan heater passed me, my thoughts turned to hand warmers. After 30 minutes, I could barely put the pellets in the breech. Has the magazine ever reviewed hand warmers? Or most shooters have antifreeze flowing around their veins. That's from a guy called Brian Arnott. Shooting in the cold weather. It's never fun. But yeah, I don't think we have reviewed the odd hand warmer in the magazine. I think we've done the Zippo solid fuel ones, and you can get is it Hot Hands or something like that, the chemical tea bag ones. They're quite good. I quite often take them with me hunting and have them in the top pocket of my jacket, just to, even with gloves on, and when it's like -4 outside, put your hands in. But what about you guys? Tournament shooting in the winter? I know you don't do an awful lot of it, but there are events, aren't there?
I am the softest fair weather shooter ever made on the planet, right? Our first tournament is the second week in March, and I'm worried about how cold it's going to be. And it's in Portishead, and the last one is usually mid-November. But I'm in a very lucky position being in a wheelchair, because I have a heated car seat in my chair. So I have a battery underneath, plug it in, and everybody else is shaking, and I'm just sat there going, And if it gets really bad, I've got like a heated body warmer. But the thing about the actual hand warmers is if your trigger finger gets cold, it's a real issue.
Terry, what do you say on the hand warmer front?
Well, you know what he said about antifreeze in your veins?
Yeah.
That's me. That's me. Seriously, if I'm
That's
saying,
vodka,
boys, oh, not first thing in the morning. No, if I decide it's getting a bit cold, most of my mates have keeled over. They're gone. You're gonna have to get the paramedics on them. I absolutely don't feel the cold abnormally so. I'm the opposite to Matt. I am, but I think that is adrenaline. I honestly do. When I was shooting in competition, I was so adrenalized. It used to give me an advantage because it would make my cheeks glow and I could feel the wind on a warm cheek better than I could when I wasn't in competition. That's the truth. I could feel a tiny little draft because my cheeks are glowing especially in the winter. You can feel it. But when like you, the teabag things, they're brilliant. You just scrunch them up between shots just for your trigger finger. Or even the desperately fashionable fingerless mitts as well. They can do it. They can keep the rest of your hands warm. But I'm very, very lucky. Neither hands nor feet or anything else on me really gets cold. If it's too cold for me, I'm giving my whatever I'm hunting, I'm giving that the day off because that's normally Baltic by then.
Yeah, some good advice there, Brian. If you're watching, listening, get some of those the teabag type hand warmers. They are really good, and they last for about 8 hours, I think. So yeah,
Great.
even if you're still you've got the range to yourself, mate. Happy days. We'll wrap through this one as well because I've written it down from Nathan Jenkins. Hi guys, I'm really struggling at the moment to get some permissions to get back out shooting. I've got insurance through the magazine subscription, and I've kept up to date with general licensing. But every farm I go to, they're either not interested or have somebody shooting on the land. Do you have any tips for me on getting a permission? Getting permission is the hardest thing to do, isn't it? As an air gunner that wants to go hunting.
Getting the first
I think
permission.
the age old. Yeah. I think the age old thing of writing to them, hand delivering a letter, that sort of thing is great. But I think we've covered it before, haven't we? The best thing you can do is drive around and look for a problem. Look for a field that's got loads of rabbits on it. Find out who owns that field. Go and approach them and say, I notice your crops are being absolutely mullered by a load of rabbits, or you've got a pigeon problem there. Can I help? And that's probably the best way. What do you reckon, Terry?
The most productive people I've found are those who own horses. Because rabbits, as you know, Dave, rabbits present a genuine danger to horses. And if you see a lot of rabbits and there are paddocks, most of the damage will be done around the edges where the horses tend to sort of trot around. And again, you approach well-dressed with an introductory letter with copies of your insurance, who you are, and just to say, look, I know, thanks for speaking to me. I notice you have horses, and I noticed a lot of rabbits on the land, which we both know could present potential problems. Also, if they've got horses and stables, they will have rats. They will. If there are stables there, feed yards, water, they will have rats. But the best in is to very subtly suggest the rabbits are a danger to horses, because they are. They genuinely are. You know, a dog with a broken leg is mendable. A horse, no. But to again, don't be annoyed if you get knocked back, even though you're offering a very valuable free service that's totally insured. but you always realise what you're asking. You're asking to go for a stranger to welcome you on their land with what they see as a firearm, and in the middle of the night when they're not about to supervise you. That is an awful lot we're asking for. The best news is, once you've got one, and I know it's hard to get that first one, once you've got one, then word of mouth travels, and you are a valuable asset. You're going to be a trusted person keeping an eye on that land at the time of day and night that the owners usually don't. Your eyes on the land. You're not just eradicating a vermin problem for them. Your eyes on the land, and you can report, any problems with their livestock and fencing and trespassers and all that sort of stuff. But it is getting that first one, and you just have to keep plugging away at it and being polite and being persistent.
I think it's even harder when you're a target shooter because you're not offering a service. You're essentially asking to go and play on somebody's land, and there's no advantage to it. So it's completely goodwill with the landowner. But I'm very lucky. I've got an overflow car park to an event centre, and it's got a certain amount of hard standing on it, so I can roll around and put my own wind flags up and things. And to be honest, that is probably what's contributed to me doing well more than any other thing.
Yeah.
But it's very hard being a target shooter because you're not cleaning, sorting the land out, are you?
No, you just want somewhere to shoot. Yeah. Right, that's me out of questions. What you got, Terry?
Okay, first of all, it's a pet subject of mine. Chap called Andy. What is the realistic number of shots required from a PCP for a good hunting session? Okay. He's confused because some rifles offer, in the old days, he remembers, the first day states used to do about 50 consistent shots. Now it seems everybody needs 200 before they're going to go out in the field. And he wants to know, what's the truth? How many do you normally need? And I can tell him anything from not even one to on the best night of your life, if you shoot 50, you had one hell of a night. And by the time you've shot 50, you'll need a break so you can go back to your car and refill anyway. So the answer from me is simple. Don't get hung up, unless you're using FAC when you need a lot more air. Don't get hung up on having hundreds of shots for a session. If you need 10, I think you've had a good session if you need 10 shots. But 50, absolutely. If you can't make a good session out of 50 before you get back to the car and refill, then you're doing something wrong. So don't get hung up about having 200 shots in the tank, because most of the time you're going to be using 8 or 9, even with a couple of zeroing shots. And that's the truth of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll chip in there. When there's a lot of lightweight rifles out there with small cylinders that will do 50, 60, 80 shots that are designed for hunting. But myself, I like a rifle that I can get 200 shots out purely because I'm not always out hunting. And I've got loads of rifles at home, and 9 times out of 10, I grab the same one to go hunting with. And I'm down on the range with it as well. So I like the balance of having 200 shots so that I can clink away down at the range and cut some paper. But yeah, if you get more than 10 shots off, 20 shots off when you're rabbit shooting, that's one hell of a session.
Yeah, you're doing well. Most of us hunting, we feel before we go. We feel before we go. We feel before we start shooting at the club, usually. And funny enough, especially if you're not using a regulated rifle, you need to know those first 20 shots absolutely off by heart. They should be on the sweet spot anyway. But the 200, the ability to have, unless you've no means of filling it, you've got to keep going back to your gun shop or to your club or wherever. Don't get hung up about having hundreds of shots. Just count yourself lucky, as we've said, if you have more than 10 on a normal walking around with your rifle hunting trip.
Okay. Any more for any more?
Yeah. Scope mounting. As high as you can or as low as you can. It's a chap called Graham. He's seen both in the mag. guns with scopes mounted 3 inches off the barrel, and some with the scope virtually touching. And what Graham's looking at is horses for courses, is what he's looking at. FT guns, FT competitions are generally, apart from the positional shots, they're generally won and lost on the long ones. If you have your scope high, the differential, the crossover point, comes further down the range. You don't have to aim off as much for the longer targets. The closer ones, where a trained field target shooter will be rock solid, it doesn't matter how much you've got to aim off. But for hunting, where you're shooting from 5 yards out to, say, 40, I prefer to have my scope as close to the barrel as I can comfortably get it. So my mag still slots in, and I can still get my hand on the parallax and all that. Because for realistic sub-12 hunting, keep the scope low. And if you want to, for your long-range stuff, for your target, have it high. Because there is another danger with a high scope, and that's can. The rifle can tip.
Yeah.
And the higher the scope is above the barrel, the higher the degree of canton. You get something called phantom windage, where the pellet strikes to the left or right. Obviously, spirit levels are a great thing. They're a great training aid as well. I'd have them on hunting guns as well as I've got them on all my guns. But general rule for hunting, keep the scope low. And for FT, you'll see what everybody else is doing and ask them why, and then see if it suits you.
What's the general consensus of opinion for Benchrest, Matt?
So I think everybody has their own opinion, but my personal opinion is as low as you can go, as tight to the barrel as possible. I think of it as like a sports car. You're trying to keep the centre of gravity low and it's secure on the rest. If you've got a high set of mounts, and some of the scopes are pretty hefty as well, any sort of movement from you is going to be magnified as you get a bit of a pendulum effect going on with the scope. So I'm as a low as you can go sort of guy, and I actually have like a shed full of mounts, and I go through them until I get the right one for the right block that's the right height. And I probably try and not get, I feel like I've lost the battle if I have more than a centimetre gap between the scope and the barrel.
Yeah. Nice one. Once again, thank you very much for joining us, Matt. I shall see you, no doubt, sometime in the spring when it's a little bit warmer. I'll come to one of your events. I'd just like to say again, another big thank you to Crackshot. If you head on over to crackshot.co.uk, they actually specialise in putting bespoke packages together. They advertise in the magazine, but they don't advertise this rifle, this scope, this 10 of pellets for 900 quid. What they want is you to call them or go onto the website and you pick the right rifle that you want, the scope that you want, the pellets that you want, the bag that you want, and then they do you a deal, which I think is a great way of doing stuff, rather than saying you've got to buy this rifle that you want, but you're going to have this scope with it. I believe Tom, who shoots...
Yeah, Tom and Howard too, Tom Jacobs, he's sponsored by them.
Right.
And he raves about the quality advice he gets from them. I think they're really canny people. I also think they're at the shooting show next month.
Yes, yeah, they are. Yeah, we'll be there. We're exhibiting this year. We've got a stand. So, yeah, maybe we'll all hook up there, say hello to each other again. Right, thanks everybody for watching, listening. Don't forget to hit the links down below to subscribe to the mag and sign up to our newsletter. And also head on over to airgunshooting.co.uk as well as airability.co.uk. And yeah, we'll see you all again in a month's time. Matt's going to be here with Rich in 2 weeks' time, and they've got another special guest. I'm not going to tell you who it is. I'll let the carrot dangle on that one. But thanks again for listening and watching, and we'll see you all again soon.